Well, hello everyone, it's Kevin here. Welcome to Mobile DJ Remastered. Thanks for coming to my channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We've got lots of great content for DJs to make you better and have more fun and introduce you to some creative ideas. Now, today what I wanted to do is basically go over my DDJ 1000, my Pioneer DDJ flagship controller that I use at every gig. I want to go through it and do something a little different. I know that there are lots of reviews online for this controller, and it's a super exciting, very versatile DJ controller for us mobile DJs. But what I want to do with this thing is actually go through it in an exhaustive fashion. I want to go through every button on the controller itself. So we're going to explore this thing deep, and I want to basically show you guys everything that this can do. Now, I'm certainly not a master by any stretch of the imagination with this thing, but I just love learning new things about it. So I want to show you guys what each button does. So if you're kind of on the fence about, I wonder if I should get it or not, maybe this will show you guys some of the capabilities. Also, this is something where if you have one and you want to watch this video, you might pick up a feature or two that you want to play with or use in your sets, in your performances, at your events. Okay, so let's jump into it. So guys, this is our setup, my DDJ 1000 here, and I've got my laptop here on a laptop arm. I'm running Rekordbox, which is Pioneer's DJ software. So this is the DDJ 1000, not the DDJ SRT. A lot of the functions are going to be the same and similar, but just wanted to let you know. All right, guys, so here is my DDJ 1000 controller from a top-down view. And if you've seen videos before, you know that basically the controller is set up where you have the first deck, okay, over here. So this would be kind of like a CDJ, or, if you can think of this as, your first track or your first deck. And then your second deck over here, okay? And then your mixer section in the middle. Okay, that's pretty standard for controller setups. What Pioneer does, of course, is they mirror the view of deck 1 and deck 2. So you can see that these two yellow buttons, for example, are over here in the same position, as opposed to some controllers, some manufacturers would flip and put these two buttons over here. So in any case, they are set up identical. So that's good. It kind of just helps with muscle memory. Where are things at in relation to the jog wheel, which is the feature that really grabs you on this unit. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to go through everything on here like I mentioned. Okay, so guys, let's start right here. We've got, of course, these buttons, which are essentially loop buttons, and they help me start and end or set a stop point for a loop. So for example, if I turn on a track, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on this track, and basically what happens is if I want to set a loop, I can do a trigger point, and then I can do an out. So this is in and then out. Okay, so now you see these are blinking. That's because I have an active loop. And if I showed you the Rekordbox software, which maybe I can kind of spin around, I can show the camera. Do you see this orange? That's essentially the loop. That's the out point that I set, okay? If I hit the exit loop button, which essentially is this guy right here, I've exited the loop. And the orange bar on my Rekordbox went away and I stopped looping. To give you a better demonstration of this, why don't I do a real rapid loop? I'm gonna click in and out, and that's gonna set a very tight loop. You can hear it for sure, right? You can also see this on the jog wheel. So it's a very small loop, okay? So I'll hit this to exit out. Awesome, right? Now let's say I wanted to just set, based on my beat grid, which is obviously something in the software attached to the song. Let's say I wanted to create a 4-beat loop. Well, I can just hit this button. As long as I don't have a loop going, I hit this button, and now I've got a 4-beat loop. you can kind of see here, it even shows me on the jog wheel, I have a 4-beat loop, and you can kind of see how it's kind of looping. All right? You can also hear that, right? Okay. So you guys get it. Now, if I hit this again, I'm out of the loop. Cool, huh? All right. So let me show you guys what this next button here does. This is basically called slip reverse, okay? So check this out. Okay, so what this is doing, and you might have noticed that the needle on the jog wheel, which we'll talk about in a second, it started going backwards. Whenever I touch this button, it goes backwards. Okay, what's going on essentially is it's allowing me to reverse, so the track is playing backwards, but then notice the needle position. See how it like jumps around? What this is doing, which is such a cool feature, is it's helping me prevent cuss words or any kind of a song, like an explicit lyric that I want to skip over. If you have a cuss word coming up, if you know your song well enough and you know the cuss word's coming up, you press and hold this, it's gonna play backwards for a second, and then it's gonna jump forward to the part as if the song continued to play. So if I'm just about to cuss, it essentially goes backwards and skips over the cuss word, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's slip reverse. Super cool to have that right here handy for your track, okay? Now also, you'll notice that I've got some other buttons up here. I have this guy, 3/1. Well, this is cool because you might have noticed that this is a 4-track controller or mixer. So I've got 4 channels, okay? How do I access the channels number 3 and 4? Okay, so 1 and 2, makes sense, right? How do I access 3 and 4 without having another set of jog wheels? Well, it's this button right here, deck select. So check this out. So right now I'm playing deck 1, and you can kind of see right now this track is playing. I hit this button, and see how there's a 1 here on the jog wheel? It switches to 3. Not loaded. Well, I can load up a track, and I just loaded up a track in my software, and I can still control deck 1, so I'm taking deck 1 down, but now this play button is gonna actually activate deck 3. So I got deck 3 going. At the same time, I got deck 1 going. Right? Okay, so you get it. So back to deck 1, and there we go. You can kind of see it. Now you can switch real time while these 2 decks are playing. It gives you a lot of capability and features. So just like this says deck 3 and 1, okay, switching between 3 and 1, which are these 2 channels. Over here, I've got these 2 channels right here, deck select 2 and 4. And you can kind of see I'm already on deck 2 here, but if I hit this, I'll go to deck 4. Okay, more on that when we get over there. Okay, so far we've kind of looked at these primary features. Now, right next to it, we have got a quantize and a slip button. Okay, so quantize, if you're familiar with how DJ software works, it basically attaches a grid to a song. And again, I'm going to show you my laptop, and hopefully you can see that there's a grid that's been attached to this song when the DJ software analyzes the song, okay? Now, right now, anything I do, like certain controls and buttons that I press on the controller, if I'm in quantize mode, I'm going to snap to the line, okay? The grid, the beat grid. I'm going to basically be constrained, if you will, or tied to the line. Why is that important? Well, that keeps things on beat. Well, a lot of people when they get really skilled at DJing, they want to go off beat. They might want to, you know, do some tricks or some drum pad, finger drumming, or they might want to do some things where, like, trigger a sample or something where it's not on beat. So you can turn quantize off. Super simple. Okay, that's a super simple little thing. I leave quantize on personally most of the time because I'm just not super skilled in that fashion where I'm going to be using features that are going to be off. But there are times when you would want to turn it off. I turn off quantize when I'm beat gridding songs, especially older songs that have, let's say, live music parts that need some adjustments, some fine adjustments. So sometimes quantize is something that you would not use necessarily for older music or if you're very skilled. Slip. Okay, slip is really cool. What slip's going to do for us is, let's get this track started again. What slip's going to do for us is just like there's slip reverse, but what it's going to do is allow us to turn on slip mode. Slip mode's on, and you saw a bunch of flashing. Watch everything flash. Okay? And this turned red. It's like a warning. Hey, slip mode's on, everybody. It wants you to know as a DJ, hey, you just hit slip mode. What is that all about? Well, this is really cool, especially if you want to put in some very simple scratching on your track. It will actually do just like slip reverse. It will play, and whatever you do, it'll just continue to, the software will continue to play. And if you scratch or do something, okay, and you let go, you'll jump back forward. It's pretty cool. Now, it can get confusing and messy if you're using hot cues while in slip mode, but you can also create some cool effects. Let me just show you what I'm talking about with the scratching. So see? I don't know if you can tell, but it jumped forward. Now, if you're scratching on beat, okay, not a great scratcher, but you can kind of see what this is doing. It's staying with the song. Now, if you had slip mode off and you did that, it just picks up wherever you let go of the platter. So not very cool. Anyway, that's slip mode. Very cool. There's some other features as I go around the top of this area, this, deck one, and it's this big black knob. What is this doing? Well, I'm pulling my computer down, and yet again, notice what's going on here. I am controlling the software. So I'm basically being able to, with that big black button, I'm able to select my song. And what's cool about this button is you can turn it and it's like an endless turn. So it'll just scroll through no matter how long the list is. And if you push it, okay, it will load a song onto this deck, okay? If I had switched over to deck 3, I can go through here and I can pick my song, push it, and it'll load it. I don't know if you can see, like the BPM will change if I'm gonna, boom, I just selected a new song and you can see it loaded. Okay, cool. Makes sense, right? Well, as a DJ, I don't know if you saw when I showed you that screen, it wasn't like super big, or it wasn't showing a lot of screen real estate. So I've got some other screens or some other buttons here to interact. I've got back and view. Okay. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead. Hopefully you guys can see the screen okay. I'm going to hit view. Look what happened. The jog wheel views on the screen went away, and I'm going to hit back. Back puts me over here. Okay. I'm going to hit view again, and it brings back my jog wheels. So essentially, I've got view and I've got back. These two buttons right here. and they allow me to maneuver through the UI of the software without touching the keyboard or the trackpad or a mouse. It's really cool. So I can go through here with this knob, hit the back button, go find my playlist, go into my, right now I'm going into a playlist, okay? And then I can, you know, I could select view if I want to see a bigger screen with more words on the page, more songs on the page, versus just my, you know, my tracks and my little representations of the jog wheels, etc. And I can see more on this screen. So that's really cool that I get my little controllers right here. And with just this, I can load a song. I can do the same over here. And I can do that on decks 1, 2, 3, or 4. Boom. Okay, cool. What else do I have over here? I've got this little knob, Jog Adjust. And this is really cool. Jog Adjust basically adjusts the tension of the jog wheel. So this is a mechanical jog wheel, okay? It feels really good and it's pressure sensitive. Watch, if I just touch it, the record continues to spin, or you can kind of see the indicator continues to move. But if I push down on it ever so lightly, it stops. Do you see that? Well, this Jog Adjust can basically give this wheel, this jog wheel, more tension or less tension. So it's probably most noticeable when you do a backspin. So I'm going to go ahead and do a backspin with this in a 12 o'clock position. Okay, now it says light. Let's move this over to light. Let's try it again. See that? There's a lot more play to it. I'm gonna move it over to heavy. Heavy jog adjust, ready? Okay, you guys probably get the sense of what's going on here. Let's do it with some music, okay? That's heavy. Now let's do light. Okay, cool, huh? I kind of like it at the, I guess that's 11 o'clock position. Okay, I like it right there. All right. So, guys, we just kind of covered the top section, but what's cool about controllers, and this one in particular, but also others, is that there are all kinds of little white boxes all around, okay? You see these white boxes that are printed on the actual surface of the controller. These are secondary features that are actually accessible by holding the shift button. And the shift button's right here on this deck, and shift button's right here on this deck. So what happens is this says slip reverse is the button, but underneath it says reverse. Oh, okay. So if I hold shift and I click this button, that blinked for a second. Watch what happens. I push play on the track. It's playing backwards. Weird, huh? Well, that's there for me. I don't know if I'd ever use that too often, but that's there for me to play with. And the software is going backwards too. It's pretty wicked looking. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that and shift and hit it again. And I'm back to normal. So, okay, I'm back to normal. What else do we have here? We have in, this is the in loop, and this was the out loop. In adjust, out adjust. Okay. What's going on here is I can actually adjust the placement of the loop that I set for an in, which is the start point of the loop, and the out. So cool. Also notice, and I didn't do this before, if you tap these buttons, you can actually have or double your loop. Okay, that's printed on here. So why don't we try that part? Okay, I've got a loop going on. You can hear it, right? And I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have it again. How cool is that, right? Wicked cool for some EDM or techno. Now, you can double it too by hitting this button while I'm in a loop. And just to jump out of the loop, you saw me hit the exit button. Okay, so there's some secondary features here. Like I said, you can adjust where that point is in the loop. You can also do some other things, like this is kind of cool. This, underneath the slip button, it says vinyl. This puts us into vinyl mode, okay? Now, vinyl mode, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So I'm in vinyl mode. And what vinyl mode does is it essentially, I think, so bear with me. I think what vinyl mode does is turn off the ability to scratch, as you heard. Yeah. So the top of the jog wheel now, even though I'm pressing on it, notice how there's no more scratch, or I can't pull, I can't tear, okay? Because the jog wheel now is in vinyl mode, or maybe perhaps it's out of vinyl mode. Because if I do shift vinyl again, okay, we're back to normal. Now, what this is useful for is if I'm not a scratcher, which I'm not very much of a scratcher, but I am learning a little. Any case, I think that you could, perhaps if you're just a you're beat mixing and you're just doing that and you're not doing scratching, you could go ahead and turn it off or on vinyl mode. And then, the jog wheel allows me to make slight adjustments in the placement of the song. It's akin to using the side of the jog wheel like this to make my adjustments as I'm playing, to make sure that I'm matching or beat matching with the song that I'm playing on another track. So that would be vinyl mode. Okay, the universe is right again. All right, so what else do we have? This right here, it says, if I click my control button once, I will load a song on this deck, okay? Now, if I click it twice, it says instant doubles, and what happens there is I will essentially load whatever's over here. So it's kind of like, let's say I'm playing this track. Okay, here, let me get a track that's, I'm gonna bring up an EDM track real quick. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I got this EDM track going. Okay, now here's the cool thing. If I double click here, so I have got an empty shell over here, right? No songs playing. In fact, I'll eject the song. So I've got nothing going on here. If I double click this selection, it will instantly take this song, put it over here, and start playing it at the exact same cursor point or needle point as this song. So watch this. That is cool, right? Why would you do that? Well, it's super helpful if you're a beat juggler, because all of a sudden I've got the same song at the same BPM and at the same point in the song over here. And then I could make a quick adjustment, and I could do some beat juggling if I wanted to. I could certainly do some tricks with the faders, anything I wanted to. I could do maybe one track, I want to take out some of the bass and I want to do some filtering or some effects, all kinds of cool stuff. So neat stuff here with the instant doubles. There's some other little features here. So inside of Rekordbox, there's a playlist palette, which allows you to bring up multiple playlists at once and kind of trade between them. It's kind of cool. It's a software feature. Related tracks is super cool. If I do shift and hit related tracks, essentially what happens is my screen will tell me, hey, you've got, whatever song that you're listening to. Let's say we're doing this right here, this techno track. And I can bring up related tracks, and it essentially is telling me what songs could go with that track, okay? Based on certain parameters. And this is such a good feature I think this is probably one of Rekordbox's most killer features. And you can really get really advanced with this. So here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I want to turn this off. All right, so here's like a normal view, so you can kind of see everything's going on. And I'm gonna try to do this without dropping my MacBook. Okay, I think I can do it. You guys should see this, it's hilarious. Okay. I did it, okay, cool. Here's what just happened. I hit the related tracks button right here, okay? It's the view button, but I held shift and it got related tracks. All of a sudden, I jumped down to this playlist called Next Prior Track. And this is from Rekordbox. This basically, here I'll hit view so you can see. So this is a button on the, the controller, the view button. These are tracks that are in a similar key. They're in a similar BPM, plus or minus 5%. And they kind of would go with the vibe, okay? So cool, right? And if you look here, these are all settings that you can set up here on the, so right now I've got BPM, and you can set all kinds of settings. Actually, I didn't even have keys selected. So you could definitely turn on some of these things. If I wanted to mix in key, I wanted similar year, plus or minus, you can set all these features, okay? And then your related tracks are gonna be, kind of like in that same genre, same era, whatever you want. So super, super cool, super cool. I love that feature of Rekordbox. And I'm not sure if Serato has a similar suggestion type function like that, but that's really, really good for you. If you're looking for a song, if you're trying to figure out like, hey, what should I play next or whatever. Okay, guys, so that is, we touched on this section, we touched on this section. I think that's all of the secondary features. The shift button we've talked about quite a bit, and that's to access secondary features. We also have the Q/loop feature here with memory and search. What does this do? Well, this allows me to kind of move through a track with just a press and a hold of a button, or bounce tracks, okay? So if I click this, I don't know if you can tell this, but it's actually switching songs as I push forward, or if I click backward. This is actually moving through a playlist on my screen. So basically I've got my collection up and I was looking at some EDM tracks. This is just bouncing through those EDM tracks, okay? Now it's interesting because obviously I'm not always going to want to just, just play songs in order, but it's very cool if I want to quickly just hit that. And if I've got a pre-produced or preset playlist, I can hit that button and I know I'm getting the next song in the playlist and it's going to be loaded and ready to go. So I don't even have to go here and select the song with my knob. I can just go there. Now, also these buttons do another thing, this search button. I can actually press and hold and move through the track. So watch this. You can kind of tell in the jog wheels. Watch how I can, I'm pressing and holding and it's searching or moving through the track. So this actually might be helpful for you if you're trying to get to a certain point in the track, you haven't set, let's say, cue points. And this would be something I think I would use. I don't use it often, but I would use, if I did use it, I'd probably use it if I was searching for a drop or something like a breakdown that I can see on the waveform here. Or I would put the cue button on and I would listen in my headphones and kind of scan through the song if I'm searching for something. There's a couple different ways to do that. And of course, moving the jog wheel moves the song too. But as you can hear, this doesn't allow for there to be sound to be produced. Now, if you, of course, wanted to do this, and you didn't want sound to come out of the speakers, you could either make sure that your crossfader is over here, or you could just make sure your volume fader's down, and you're not going to hear that either. But in any case, just a couple things that these buttons do. There's also a cue and a cue loop call. These are if you are into setting memory cues in your songs, not hot cues, which I'll talk about in a minute that I use heavily, but you might be a memory cue kind of person. I sometimes set memory cues, but mostly for like if I wanted to make an auto loop or something like that. You can access them right here if you want to hit your memory and call a loop. But that's what that feature is for. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the jog wheel itself. As we're pretty much here, we've been kind of hinting at it. I've been referencing it. I've been talking about it with different functions like jog adjust. This is so cool. I love these jog wheels. They really feel so easy to manipulate and just grab onto. They're very rugged. This is, it's a plastic top, but it's got little ridges on it. You can almost, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of like little ridges. So it feels like vinyl, okay? Let me just say that. It feels like a record. And that's wicked cool. I've never really played a lot with vinyl, but this makes it feel like you are. Also, it's a little fingerprinty right now because I've been messing with it. But also, this is like a rubberized plastic around the edge with these little notches for your finger to grab onto and do your beat mixing. And I just find it very, like, you can cut quick. You can easily grab onto this. It's got a lot of good texture to it, and it just feels really good. Now, inside of the DDJ 1000 and the 800, and of course I believe the XZ does this as well. It gives you these displays, and they can be configured. What I like to just leave it mostly default. I take off the album art because I feel like I like to just see the information. But you can see here, it's telling me a lot of things. It's telling me the BPM real prominently, which is really great because I can see that. Without even looking at my computer, I can see that. I can see the key. I can see if I'm this 0.0%, okay, that I'm seeing here, that's basically your tempo fader setting. Look, I can see if I'm, minus 6%, minus 16%, or I'm sorry, plus 16%, minus 14%. I can kind of like, wherever I am, I can see what percentage off I am from the original BPM of the song, how it's beat grid. That's awesome. Okay, that's really, really cool. Also, what I really like, and I'm going to load up something that has a cue point in it. Here we go. Okay. Notice I can see the full waveform here. Okay. So, and I can see where I have, A, B, the red block and that B block, that blue B block, and I can see G, H. And these correspond with my hot cues. I can see where they are in the song. But even better than just having a view of the full waveform and seeing where the cue points relatively are, I can see how many beats or how many bars are going to be before I hit a cue point. So if I push play here, I can see that my A hot cue is coming up in 8 bars. Okay, now it's coming up in 4 bars. Okay, so essentially this could help me tremendously if I'm scratching, if I want to grab a cue point, if I'm doing some cue point playing. I don't know what I'm doing there. I'm just messing around, but you get the point. Really, really cool. I can see when my cue points are coming up. And that's especially helpful if you're trying to use cue points or hot cues as a marker. Okay, that can really be helpful. I frequently, when I'm getting ready to beat match, if I'm doing like quick mixing, I'll set a marker where I want to quick mix out of a long track, and I'll just watch and I'll see that, oh, I got 4 bars, boom, and I start doing my mix. It's super helpful, and I love that feature. Okay, so there's some other things that this shows me. Of course, we know it shows me the deck. On the deck select 1, 3, okay, back to 1. And it shows me time remaining on the track. How useful is that, right? So I got 5 minutes left. If I jump back to a hot cue I've got at the end, it tells me, oh, 10 seconds. And this is like stressful because it's stressful for me now. And I'm just making a video because it's blinking at me. Notice how that's blinking. That's supposed to warn you. Your song is about to end. Your track's about to get over. And that's really cool. What a cool feature because, and believe me, as a wedding DJ, mobile DJ, event guy, I'm running around doing stuff. If I look over at my controller and I see this blinking, and you'll notice it starts to blink faster as you get closer, right? It starts to blink faster. If I see that blinking, I'm doing a healthy jog over to my controller so I can pick up and keep the party going. Anyway, nice feature there for sure. Now, again, it actually shows cue points as a vinyl marker because it would just be like a sticker on a record. And that's for if you were mixing and you wanted to, I'll just try to show you. If we were mixing and we wanted to always bounce back to that cue point, that red cue point, or maybe we're mixing and the sample, we want to get to the blue, right? So it's great for mixing. Hopefully that makes sense. And I can see some other little things, but you get the point. You get the point, I think, of what some of the information is. And we'll come back to a couple other little things in a little bit. But moving on in the tour, we've got essentially, we talked about the fact that if I move the jog wheel when I'm in, I think it's called vinyl mode, but maybe it's not non-vinyl mode. I'm moving the jog wheel, and it's basically moving the record forward and backward, okay? If right here, it says reverse and fast forward, forward rather. What this is this is regarding the sides of the jog wheels. And this is, as we said, this is to nudge a track forward or back to help with beat mixing and aligning grids so that they can beat match. Now, there's also right here, it says grid adjust and slide. This is white because it's activated when I hit shift. And if I do this and I move this, what's going on right now is ugly. And I don't want to show you guys because I don't like what's going on right now. It's adjusting my beat grid. Okay, it's not adjusting the song. It's adjusting the grid that's on top of the song. Okay, so essentially, maybe I can show you. It's been working okay so far, right? Me not dropping my laptop just yet. Okay, here we go. Watch. See the beat. I don't know if you can see, but the beat grid itself is moving. That's ugly, right? That's bad. Nobody wants to do that unless you're making an adjustment. So I don't want to do that live usually. I want to do that kind of before my event or something. And you want to get your beat grids like nice and accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and try to set this back. Now, again, that would be a good thing if I got a track and I hadn't adjusted or set up a beat grid and I need to make a quick adjustment, you could do that. But okay, I think I fixed it. I think we're good. Otherwise, my quantize will be all off and it'll sound funny. Okay, I'm a little off. 1 sec, let me fix it. Okay, boom. Okay. I think I'm good now. Okay, cool. This is messing around with the beat grid. It's like, it's like you have a scalpel and you're doing surgery. Okay. Okay. That's going to be good enough. Yeah. Okay. Now, one thing I'll tell you what you could do is, and this is something that, if you get messed up on a beat grid, just reanalyze the beat grid. No problem. The software will reanalyze, especially electronic music. It'll fix out 99% of your problems, unless it's like an old track or it's got some issues. Definitely, I think that's a good move. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix one more little thing, and okay. All is right with the world again. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, guys. So that is adjusting the beat grid, which I do not recommend just doing it frivolously. Okay. So what else do we have here? We have the cue and the play button. So this is obviously, I've been playing, playing and pausing all night. Now, some folks like a stop, hard stop like I've got, so you can kind of hear stops immediately. But you can also have a setting in the software where you hit the stop button or the start button, the play button, and it slowly spins up and slowly spins down like a real record player. You can set that mode if you'd like. And the cue button is actually very helpful, especially if you want to set a point in the song where you would start to play. So what typically I will not use the cue button too much because I usually play with hot cues, and we'll talk about those in a second. But if I had a cue point that I set, you press and hold, and now that point is set in the song, okay? And let me go ahead and set one. I want to set it right. I'm going to set it right here so you guys can see. Here's a little example. Okay, so I've got a cue point set. Now, what I can do is if I press this cue button, so I pressed and held it and it locked in a cue point. If I press and hold this, it's basically allowing me to cue up the song at that specific point that I set. It allows me to play from that point. But notice as soon as I take my finger off the button, it stops. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with why you want to do this, it's essentially to help me with scratching, also with beat matching. If I imagine I'm playing a song over here, okay, and I set this up to the same BPM, and I want to get this track, this new track coming in, I want to kind of get it going, okay? So I can kind of tap this to the beat. And I can kind of hold it here. And when I'm happy that I'm beat matched well, or maybe I need to make a slight adjustment, okay? But when I'm happy, I just hit the play button, okay? And then I'm good, and I can drop the other song. But basically, that's kind of like what you would use the cue button for and the play pause button. Okay, and these guys don't have secondary functions with the shift button, so we're good there. Now we're in the pad area. These are such cool buttons because they're gonna let us do all kinds of stuff. So let's see what we can do. We've got hot cue, pad effects, beat jump, sampler, page buttons, okay? Then we have on the shift, if we press shift, keyboard, pad effects 2, beat loop, key shift, and sampler bank left and right. All right, guys, this is like, we've got all kinds of goodies here. So first off, hot cue. This is going to let us basically trigger a point in the song. And I think I was showing you guys earlier, here on the jog wheel, I can see my cue points. If I look at the software itself, I can also see cue points. I can see that I have A, B, G, and H set. And if I look at the waveform, this is just a depiction of the waveform for the whole song. I can see those and what their relative placements are. So that's cool. So I can see that G and H are toward the end and A and B are toward the beginning, etc. Okay, so what do I use these for? Well, for me personally, I use red, okay, red A, to basically be the point where I want to start a song. And it doesn't work, I've got this set up to where it works like the play pause button. So all I have to do is hit it. See that? It's not like the cue button where I have to press and hold. Okay, it's just hit it and go. And it's always gonna play from that part in the song, and that track where A is set up, where the hot cue is set up. Now, B is actually a little bit further in. And you can probably tell on the jog wheel that I have my A hot cue right here, and then 4 bars later, I have B, or the blue marker. And that's because I want a 4-bar little intro. So I hit A, 2 bars, 3, 4, boom. And then I drop on B. I always want to do that. I pretty much do my whole library like that. I've got a whole other video that you could watch if you wanted to see why I do that. But really, it's just that let me know. I've got all my songs queued up at the very least with a B. My B hot cue is going to come in on the vocals or the first verse, or like the part of the track that's recognizable. You know, and then my intro beats where I can use for mixing. I go 4 bars back, and then I have that little 4-bar section. So this is where I'd be mixing in the next track. Now, if I need a little more runway, like with EDM or something, a little more than just 4 tracks, I'm going to either put a loop on that sucker using, you know, my loop button here, or what I might do is load up my hot cue and then go back. Okay, I can go back 4 bars, and you can see here, like, I'm starting at this position 0, which is just a marker here on the jog wheel, but 4 bars later is my A, and then finally my B, where I want to be mixed out of this track and into this track. And here's what's cool is I did that by hand, but I could do it by hand if I wanted to, or I can use my search, right? That we did earlier. Notice how that's given me some bars, or I'll show you something else you can do right here from the pad mode. Okay, cool. So that's hot cues. How do I set a hot cue? Super easy. You just push a button. Okay? I can set these hot cues on the fly, or I can set them up earlier. And to take them out, I hold Shift and I take them out. Really cool, right? Now, what's even better is here's 8 hot cues that I can use. And I hit page, I've got a whole nother 8, okay? So really, that's pretty cool. You've got 16 hot cues to play with. All right, so, and that's per deck, right? So I could have 16 hot cues on each deck, you know, times 4, 64 hot cues. That's awesome. Okay, now, underneath, well, I'll keep going across here. Pad effects, these are super cool. Pad effects, and you see the color changed. Pad effects will basically give me a push button effect on a track that's going. So here's this track, and I've got these set up in the software, so I'll let you hear what they're doing. So essentially I'm gonna go ahead and put a loop on this. Essentially what's going on here, guys, is a pad effect is push button, and as long as I'm pushing it, it will be in effect until I lift off my finger. Except for some pad effects that I've configured in my software actually have some staying power. They have a feature that you push them once and they stay on until you turn them off. Here we will demonstrate. So this first one, you hear this is like a light flange, right? Here's the next one. Isn't that cool? It's got like a little backspin. Okay, you guys get the point. And then these guys, listen to this. That was a bad example. Here, let's try this again, but I'm going to turn off my loop and I'm going to get into some musical components. Here we go. Okay, I got a little loop and we've got some harmony now. Here's what these pad effects do over on this side. So it's like a vinyl break, okay? It's like a slow down. That's what they call when I mentioned that the play and pause can be configured like that. I like that sound, but just not on the play and pause button. So I use that. Notice it's on and the song is actually continuing to play. It's kind of like a slip mode kind of thing, but I had put it on a loop. So we're just stuck in that little loop, that 4-bar loop. Okay, so I'm gonna let go of this and let the loop continue to play. And then here's an echo out. And it's a 3/4 echo out. It works really great with mixing, especially quick mixing if I'm wanting to jump to this track. So I've got those kind of set up. Now, just like HotQ, I can hit page and I can have a whole other set of effects. So check this out. You guys get the point. So you can have pages. It's so cool. And notice how the colors change slightly. You can set the colors in the software. So I made these colors to trigger in my mind what they're going to do. You can also they display on the screen what the effect is. So I can see that this is vinyl break. I can see that on the screen on my laptop. Okay, what else do we got? Beat jump. This is a really cool feature. This will help you, especially in those cases where you need a little more time, let's say in the track, to do something. So let's say or you want to jump forward, especially in techno or EDM. So let me get this going. Maybe I want to beat jump back. You can't even hear a discernible difference. Can you? No, you can't. But as long as I've got quantize on, you can kind of see how we're continuing to bounce around, and that A and B, I'm going back and forth. The A and B are moving, and we're actually moving forward and back in the song. But what's going on is this beat jump is just popping forward on the beat, on the bar. And right now, this is 4 beats. So that's, each one of these is a bar. So I'm just hitting back 1 bar, and you can hear I'm letting that hi-hat kind of come in and I just bounce back. Okay, so what do these other buttons do? Well, this is 4 beats or 1 bar, 4 backward and forward. This is 1 beat, or I'm sorry, 1 beat backward and forward, 2 beats back and forward, 8 beats back and forward. So this is like a half a bar. This would be 2 bars, 1 bar and 1/4 bar. Okay, so why would you do that? Well, lots of reasons. You can fast forward through a track in a specific, very targeted way instead of just holding these search buttons. Or if you need more time in a track or something like that, super cool. And if you use the page button, you get all kinds of other options. So I'm seeing on the screen now that this is 128 beats backward or forward, 64, 32, 16. And there's other options like this. I went backwards in the pages. This will give me 1/8 of a beat backward or forward. Amazing to fine tuning. Okay, and you can't even hear the effect, but a super cool feature there, fine tuning. Okay, cool. That's beat jump, super cool. And I love these right here. This is that 1 bar backward and forward, 2 bars back and forth. I use this a lot. Okay. Sampler. The sampler in Rekordbox is awesome. You can do a lot with the sampler. What I do with it is I pre-make my samples. I have sample files. I take clips of songs or whatnot. I put them in here and then boom, I've got my sampler set up. So essentially, I'm going to go ahead. I'll just show you guys real quick. It's like, there's a sample volume knob right here, which is great that I can control. And you can have pages of samples too. Do you see how the colors are changing? So I basically have, let's see, I have 8, 16, and that's it. So you can have 4 banks, okay? So I have 16 and I have 16 over here on this side. So each of these buttons, if I'm in sampler mode, has a different sample. So see how I'm moving through pages and this is changing too? And then you'll notice that there's 2 pages of blanks. So that's essentially, I've got 32 samples. I can go up to 64 samples. And that's just track 1 and 2. I could have my, deck 1 and 2. I could have deck 3 and 4 also loaded with samples. So in any case, I'm not doing anything with like recording right now. I'm just going to show you guys. So that's the old air horn. And if you're, come on, are you even a DJ if you don't have an air horn? Okay. So you got some other ones. I just got all kinds of cool, you know, and some of the samples will play, and then once they're done, the light will go off. Now, let's say you played a sample and you're like, it's a long one like this one. Notice how I clicked shift and the sample and it stopped it. That also works if you've got a loop sample. You can put a loop sample into one of your banks, so it's like a beat or something like that. It's really cool. You could also just do this. Turn it off. Turn off your volume. Okay. So I've got samples for, you know, things like that, like a little bit of finger drumming. I'm not a real finger drumming master, but you can see how that's set up. By the way, these pads are like, they seriously feel like a perfect stick of butter, like a piece of butter, like a pad of butter that is not greasy or anything. It's just perfect. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a perfect, you know, give. That's a cool sample. Any case, I love the sampler. It's really, really good, really effective, and easy to use. Now, you can play around with, of course, making your own samples, as we talked about, but that's mostly in the software. You can do a little bit here, but it's mostly in the software. So I'm going to skip that. That is the first kind of row here of features. Next, you've got a whole set of shift features. Oops. A whole set of shift features: keyboard, pad effects 2, beat loop, and key shift. Let's check these out. So the way you access them is you press shift and you press keyboard. So here's what keyboard's going to do for us. Keyboard is asking us, hey, I turn it on, turn everything yellow, and it's like, hey, which hot cue do you want to make the base of your keyboard? Okay, so I'll just pick this one. All right, that hot cue is now mapped to this button right here. Okay, so check this out. When I hit this white button, listen to what happens. So remember I hit the G hot cue, the blue one. Well, notice that I'm hitting this button. This is like a keyboard now, and this button makes me play the hot cue that I selected. Okay, it's the blue one. It's like further back in the song, right? So far in the song that I'm getting the blinking white ring, okay? The stress-inducing white ring. So I'm hitting this button. Now here's the magic of keyboard. It gives me semitones up and down from this hot cue. So check it out. Okay, now you can simply turn it off like I just did and jump out of it. So that is keyboard. Now, you can do even more with keyboard if you, let's do this again, and I'll start at the beginning of the song this time. Okay, here's what we're gonna do now. I'm going to use page. Okay, so what essentially I was doing there, And I'm clearly not a keyboard artist here on this, on the DJ1000. What I was doing though is, as you could hear and see, I was changing the tone up and down, which is really, really cool. And you could go through the pages even further, even higher. Okay, cool. What else we got? Pad Effects 2. What is this? Well, it's just like it sounds. I've got a whole other set of effects that I can access. So if I'm playing a song, a track, I got a whole other, and these are just like some basic ones, but I got, you know, effects for days. So I got a whole other set of banks for pad effects. Okay, really cool. Beat Loop, check this out. You remember Beat Jump is our friend where it can go forward and backward. Check out Beat Loop. This is kind of like an auto loop that would help me set up an instant loop like we did over here at the top left of the controller. But listen to this. Okay, so basically what that's doing is allowing me to, just by the push of a button, and I can obviously let go and turn it on and off if I push it again, it will allow me to set that beat loop. So you can do things like this with the filter, right? Okay, just messing around. But you guys get, that is Beat Loop. That's the shift of Beat Jump, okay? And finally, we have Key Shift, which is kind of cool. It's similar to keyboard, but it allows me to shift the key of a song. So if I'm playing a song, so let me go ahead and here, I'm gonna, okay, that's a cool loop. I'm gonna put it on Key Shift. That right there is my current key. And then these are semitones up and down. If I use page, I can go down a semitone. Okay, clearly I'm just messing around at this point, but you guys get the point. Pretty cool. I don't know if I'd use that in a performance. Maybe you could figure out a routine or a trick where you use that and you kind of did some, I've definitely seen some cool things like on Crossfader or some other channels where they've used keyboard or key shift in you know, ingenious different ways, but there you go. That's just some examples. A couple other buttons to tell you about. Here is the notorious Beat Sync. So if you don't know what Beat Sync does, let me just, here. If I'm playing a track over here, and I want to quickly get this song to match this song, not like the instant doubles kind of match, but I want my BPM to be the same. I could certainly use the tempo fader, okay, and I need to match 128, so I could maybe make it equal 128, and I'm essentially at the same spot, or I can click Beat Sync. Now, this lights up, this tells me I'm synced, and it is synced. What's cool about Beat Sync is, if I do that, I'm now set. And if I adjust my BPM over here, my tempo fader, notice how this changes, but it's linked to this, so this changes as well. So this is gonna stay with me. It's kind of cool. I'm not a big fan of using it too often, but you can use that if you'd like. And the shift mode of Beat Sync is master. Right now, the master track is typically the one that was playing first. So this one over here, you can see it says master, okay? And this one, if I hit, would be the slave, and it chooses to be synced with this one. But if I wanted to force this to be the master, I can hold shift and press this, and it will become the master, okay? And now I can basically control my own BPM over here. Okay, cool. Anyway, Beat Sync, is BeatSync, and I'll leave it there. Master Tempo, this is super helpful because Master Tempo allows me to adjust the pitch of a song. This is the pitch fader. Okay, this allows me to pitch the song, the tempo of the song, up and down, or pitch it forward or backward, up and down rather. And Master Tempo allows me to lock in the key. Okay, what does that mean? Well, listen to this song. I'm gonna play this loop that I've been playing with. Okay, right? Sounds pretty cool. Now check this out. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. Sounds the same, right? Now I'm going to make it go slower. Sounds the same, right? But just slower. Watch what happens when I turn off Master Tempo by clicking it. I don't have to hold shift, I just click it off. So it's no longer lit up. Wow, you can really tell that it's slowed down, right? You can hear the key changing. And what's so cool about keeping Master Tempo locked is you can make adjustments. Like I can go all the way down to 123, all the way up to 145, whatever I want to do. And it sounds the same to the, to the non-discerning ear. It sounds like the same. It's the same key or the same pitch. And that's really helpful for beat matching because you're not going to get songs that typically match up perfectly. So if I want to go from 135 to 128 or something like that, I need to have some play. And I need to, I don't want people to hear a discernible change in pitch when I'm changing. So that's super helpful. Also, the shift mode of Master Tempo is tempo range. Check this out. You can even see on the jog wheel, right now, it says plus 10, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 16, plus, and then it says wide, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 16, wide. Now, what that does is it basically impacts the range of the tempo fader. So watch, I'm playing this loop again, and I've got it on plus or minus 16. That allows me to go up and down 16%. See that plus or minus 16% here. Okay. Now, if I put it on wide, I can go all the way down to 0 BPM, which is minus 100%. And then I can go all the way to double, plus 100%, 270 BPM. That's a large range. You wouldn't typically want that. I like to play around with 16. Some DJs like 6 or 10 because they want to have very fine control on the crossfader, or I'm sorry, on the tempo, the pitch control here. Because if I'm moving the tempo fader a little bit, notice how I can get down to, I'm moving it a decimal point at a time if I'm in 0.10. Now in 16, I can do it. You're seeing me do it. I'm moving it 129.9, 129.8, but it's a little tougher. If you do wide, it's impossible. I mean, every move is like at least 0.2 and it even jumps higher sometimes. And it's really hard to get those fine motions. And you just can't do that when you're at an event and you're kind of grabbing your controls and you're moving around. You don't have the precision to be here in super small moves. So I think 16 is the max I would do. And then some people would suggest 10. I like 16 because I'm an open format DJ. I play a lot of different music. I need to have that ability to switch up and down different BPMs so I can keep the party moving and keep beat matching. Okay, guys. Also here is key sync. This would allow me, if I wanted to mix in key, I could definitely make sure that I'm key synced to this track over here before I started playing it. Or I could key sync with this key sync button over here. And let's say that I got my key all out of whack, I can reset my key, okay? And that is certainly something that I can do. And I'm not gonna play around with that too much, but I think if you are a mix and key type person, this will be very helpful for you to make sure that your tracks will stay in the same key. Okay, cool. guys, I have covered pretty much this whole entire deck top section. I think I got everything. And it's going to be identical over here, so I don't need to talk about this too much. But what I didn't talk about yet is the mixer section. So let's do that. I know this is a really long video at this point, but hopefully you guys are still with me and this is helpful. So check this out. This is our mixer section. Just to orient you, this is essentially different, as we've been talking about, different channels or tracks. So I've got the 4 channels, and they're labeled 3, 1, 2, 4 because 1 and 2 are in the center. And then I've got 3 and 4 on the outside. So this is pretty cool. It's pretty intuitive, actually. And when you think about it, just by default, I've got channel 1, channel 2 on deck 1 and deck 2. Makes sense. And if I click my little deck select, I can go over to 3 and 4. Now, I switched to 3, and you guys saw that earlier, so I'm cool. I think you guys get this part. But look at this. It's funny here. It says external input on the controller. And where's my channel 4? Why doesn't it look like this? Well, that's because I selected here, instead of USB-A, USB-A, I've got that selected on all 3 of these channels. On this one, I have selected phono and line, and you might even see these red and white cables sticking here. What I do with channel 4, I don't use it as a standard deck. I could. I just switch it on. Boom. There it is. And I can load a song into it, and I can play, you know. I can easily do that. Right? But I don't do that. I keep it on phono line because, check it out, this cable goes into a wire underneath my deck, my controller, and I've got a little connector, and I can connect my phone to it. And the reason I do that is because somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I want to hear blah, blah, blah. I don't have it. I can pull it up on Spotify and stream it. And I don't like to do that often, but that's like my break fix solution for a song that I didn't bring on my laptop. I do not want to try to connect my laptop to the Wi-Fi and perhaps introduce some sort of weird failure issue or something like that. So I just keep that as a backup in case I have something that somebody absolutely, a VIP, needs to hear, but I don't have it. So that's what I do with my 4th channel. My 3rd channel, I use to load up. I could load up a song. Let's say I'm doing a wedding and I could load up like the introduction songs on deck 1, 2, and 3 and kind of bounce between. Like, let's say I've got an intro song and then I've got the rest of the bridal party and then I've got the couple coming in. I can kind of like have them all ready to go. And it's super easy to interact with these decks, as you can see. So, any case, I've got the 4 decks. That's in the middle, okay? And you've got at the bottom a crossfader that allows me to control what's going on, where's the sound going to come from, either this side, side A, or the side B. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then I've got over here, I've got all kinds of miscellaneous. I've got microphone settings, I've got microphone EQ, I've got, just like I have EQ for each of the channels, I've got some color effects, I've got sampler volume, sample Q, I've got headphone controls, etc. By the way, headphone jacks are right here in the front of the unit. So it's super easy. And it makes sense, right? Headphone volume control, headphone jack are right here. Okay, then on this side of the mixer, I've got master volume, monitor, booth monitor volume, Q. I've got the effects section, which is super cool, okay? And that's pretty much the layout. So let's break these down. Over here in the microphone, I've got off, on, talk over, okay? Talk over makes this light blink, on makes it on, off makes it off. Okay, on is pretty clear. It's just gonna let you have microphone, which I have hooked up here, and you know, a cable going out here, but I don't actually have a mic connected at the moment. And essentially on will just let the mic come through the speakers, okay? Pretty simple. Talk over will actually let the mic come through the speakers, but mute, not mute completely, but dim down, okay, lower the volume of the underlying music from any of the tracks that are going through the master. So it's kind of like talkover will allow you to speak, and you don't have to turn down the volume of the track of the music playing. It's just the software and the controller will do that for you. Super cool. Okay, what's this? Mic 1 volume, okay, mic 2 volume. Super simple and easy to understand. There's a high and a low EQ for the microphones, and unfortunately, these are not independent. They control both mic 1 and mic 2. There are 2 microphone inputs in the back of the unit. That's why we have mic 1 and mic 2. But the high and low, high frequency, low frequency, actually will affect both. Okay, now that's the microphone. Here are color effects, sound color effects. These can be altered in the software, by the way, but I love these 4 effects. They're perfect. So here's kind of what these guys are sounding like. I'm gonna go ahead and put another loop on this guy. Kind of like this jam that we're playing with here. It's pretty cool. Okay, here's what these do. Filter, by the way, okay, it's off right now, and now it's on. Now noise is on. Now dub echo is on. Okay, that's how it works. If it's blinking, it's on. If you depress it the second time, it goes off. Okay, so here's filter. This is just a typical low pass, high pass filter. And you can set the tolerance or how wet or how dry it is in the software. Noise, this is cool. Okay, noise is an added effect. It adds like a build up. So you can certainly do some cool things with that. And I love that you can turn off the sound effects by hitting the button again. So listen to this. It just adds to the cutoff factor. So like this. Okay. As opposed to very quickly moving the knob back, you could just shut it off. Now pitch, check this out. Just like you would imagine it working. Right? And dub echo. Just gives a little sound effect to it, neat little sound effect. Okay, guys, so those are the sound color effects. Now you might notice, like, I'm pushing the button and I'm using this knob to control the sound color effect. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, there's a filter. What's going on here is these buttons, they say color on them, and they say low to high. Low, high, low, high. This knob will apply this color effect to the channel, to channel 1. Okay? If I have the filter on over here and I turn it, doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything because this channel isn't playing. This deck isn't playing. If I play it, then of course it works. And now this one does nothing. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So these buttons are attached to deck 1. Okay. Now, here, as I go through these color effects, that's great. But what I also want to show you is that you can layer these. So I could have a filter on track 1, and I can do the same thing with track 2. I could apply a color filter on track 2 as well. Okay, so you could actually be doing low pass and high pass at the same time. Okay, so you can layer them. In the software, you can even do some cooler things. You can change what these buttons actually do. They won't say anything different because they're printed on here, but you could change what the function is. Okay, now, what else do I have here? I have sampler, and this is my sample volume. That's pretty self-explanatory, and you guys heard before when I did when I did a sample, I can turn my volume up and down with this knob. Well, I also have this Q button, and I alluded to the Q button before, but essentially a Q button is in existence here, 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 and here. What does this do? Well, if I push that, this sound will now come through my headphones. It's cued into my headphones, which is super cool because I could have the volume down and I could hit this button. You don't hear anything. You're still not hearing anything. Even though these samples are firing, I can tell because the light's on. But it's coming through the headphone, okay? I could get the headphone and you'd hear it. That's cool because you can sample it. You can preview it before you play it live, which you'd have to do this to play it live, right? You have to turn up the volume. So Q button's super cool, and it's actually how, if you didn't know this, it's how DJs can, have their volume fader down, cue up the next song by either using their Q button like we showed you before, using hot cues, maybe going through the song and finding the perfect spot, playing it. Now notice, I'm not hearing anything, but I see that my volume, my channel is actually registering sound. It's playing through the headphones right now. Here's how it sounds if I wanted to put it through the master. But with this volume fader down, it's not coming out of the master speaker. So that's pretty cool. Now, that's like DJing 101. Sorry, I know that's probably pretty basic, but if you didn't know, that's what the Q buttons are for. So you can cue up the sampler, which is kind of cool. Now, how you hear in the headphones is determined by these next two buttons. Headphones, there's two of them. Level, which is the volume control on the headphones. Okay, so this is basically, I like it right about here, but I might need to turn it up just a little bit if it's a loud environment or if the music's really loud. And then this is mixing, okay? So I can set it, I've got it set on Q right now. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear whatever I cue up. Maybe I cue up track 1 and deck 1 and my sampler, and I'm kind of listening to this song while this one's playing for the audience. I'm listening to this track to try to make sure I'm beat matching, or I've got the right spot that I want to bring the song in as, or whatever, at the right spot. But if I wanted to, I could move this all the way over to master, or I could put it in the middle where I'm hearing both track 1 and 2 at the same time through the headphones, no matter the position of the volume faders. So that's kind of cool. It gives me an ability to hear with headphones on my head. I could hear both tracks, okay, or all tracks. I could hear everything, or I could hear just what's being cued. It actually says it really small: Q and master. Okay, so that's the headphone section and sampler section, and that part of the mixer. So in the middle, we talked already about the little selection knobs where I can choose USB A or B or phono line. Okay, and my channel 4 is set up for phono line for my iPhone or something like that. Now, USB A is essentially this cable right here that I'm pointing to. You probably can't see it, but it's going to my computer that's off screen right now. And this is USB B, and this is another connector. I can actually have another computer connected if I wanted to this controller or another source, and that's pretty cool. So you could actually bring another laptop and have like a switch over, or like you could control 2 decks and another DJ could control other 2 decks, and you're all playing on the same piece of hardware. Kind of cool. Like maybe I'm on decks, 1 and 3, and I can switch over here between 1 and 3, and then my other DJ could switch between 2 and 4. Okay, so the next thing that I just want to show you guys is each channel that I have here, each of the 4 channels, allows me essentially to control the EQ of the sound wave coming through the channel. So this is probably best illustrated just by letting us hear a song. Here's that same loop, and I'm gonna take out the bass. So you can clearly hear that there's just like a lack of floor to the sound, lack of bass. So if I'll turn it back up, and I'll even turn it up high. So that's like extra bass. And you can really feel it. You can hear it and you can feel it if you're here. You can definitely tell that the bass and the low of the EQ is turned up. Now, you see that this low knob is a blue color. I think you can probably see that on camera. Even though the light's a little dim in here. This is the an orange and this is a gray. Why? Well, it corresponds to, and it's something I did. I added these color caps. They were black and white, like this one, black and then a white line. But I like these color caps that basically correspond to the colors in the software. So if I look at Rekordbox, you can see that, like, if you look at track 2, you can see the blue. Those are bass frequencies or low frequencies. The orange, not the orange part of this loop here, but the orange and the sound wave that you see, those are mid-level frequencies. And then the white or the cream / gray, I guess you could call it in some cases, it's more of the high frequencies. So I wanted to just correspond, and it's more of a visual thing for me. I just thought it was cool. So here's what it sounds like if I take out the mids. Okay, and then here's what happens if I take out the highs. Okay, so why would you ever want to do any of these EQs? Like, why do I have these EQs? And that's a question probably for another video, and I've explored it in other things, but I'd say just real simply, you take out bass typically if you're wanting to mix another track into another track, because you don't want two bass lines to conflict. So typically if I'm mixing in, let's say I'm getting ready to mix in track 2, I would turn the bass down to nothing and then start mixing in. And I might also turn down the mids a bit. You can also use mids to cut out or take out melody / vocals, okay? So it's not gonna take it out completely. It's not like a stem feature in some of the DJ softwares, but it allows you to just have a cleaner mix. So essentially, if you have a song that you're mixing in and you don't want there to be clashing vocals or whatever, and you just can't get a spot in the song where there are no vocals, you could use the mids a little bit to turn down and bring in that track. But that's essentially the main use of the EQs for pedestrian usage. I think you can certainly play with the highs if you want to take off the tinny high pitched sound of a song, or if you want to adjust a song that might be a bad recording, you could adjust any of these. I have some old like a Motown song that comes to mind that I have to drop the bass quite a bit and pump up the treble just a little bit. Now, could I remaster the sound file? For sure, I could do that. But in the mix, when you're playing, if you run into that scenario when you pull an old track up or something like that, you've got to react quickly. And I'm glad that, you know, these features are here for me to kind of manipulate the track real time. Okay, cool. So that's basically the EQ knobs. We talked about the color knob, but one we skipped over was this one, the gain. This is called the trim knob here on the controller. It says trim, and it's basically will take the individual channel volume up and down. So I'm just gonna put this trim, I'm gonna put all the way to 0, and it says negative infinity. So it's basically taking the sound down to nothing. And then of course, I can turn it up. Notice how it has a corresponding response here on this visual EQ. You never want to be in the red like that. Why? Well, it's because it's clipping. You're basically overdriving the channel, and you're gonna hear that ceiling, you're gonna hear static, you're gonna hear a clipping sound, which is not pleasant for anybody. Even at low volumes, it's gonna sound bad. So what we want to do is kind of keep this. I like to keep usually my trims are at like 11, okay? That gives me a little bit of headroom so that when I'm playing and if the song has a spike in it or a big drop or something, it's not gonna clip, but it's still gonna be up here. Like I like to target, you got like 4 green bars, you got 3 yellow bars, and you got 2 reds. I like to target that yellow. I wanna stay in the yellow. Usually 11 o'clock is good for me. Some songs though, I have to turn up in order to get into the yellow, or turn down because they're mastered just differently. So I turn it down to maybe, 9, maybe 10 o'clock or something. Anyway, that's where I usually keep my trim or my gain knob. And I think that covers these EQ knobs, okay? Pretty standard stuff on these DJ controllers, but good to cover. Now, there's also this guy, and this I've been using all throughout this little tour here. These are volume faders, and these control the volume that will be dispersed out into the master speakers. You notice that if I have this down, okay, I don't hear anything because it's controlling the volume out of the master speaker. And then here it's up fully, here's halfway. Now, notice that there is still light on my little visual EQ. That's because the sound is still coming through, and independent of what the master speaker is doing, the sound's still coming through the channel from the computer into this track 1. Now, my channel volume, I could turn this up all the way and I'm not hearing anything, even though it's spiking red. I could turn it down to nothing and you can see nothing here, and it's still, I hear nothing. Okay, great. Okay, why is that? Well, this controls the volume, or let's say the gain or the trim, as they call it here, of the channel independent of the master. And if you were to put this on cue and listen to it in your headphones, you would hear the volume get really loud right here and really low right here, or nothing. Okay. Now that's essential because that's going to let you dial in your EQ on a track. Okay. And again, usually the tracks you're going to have them mastered. They're going to be good and you're not going to have to do this, but it allows you to do that while in cue. And then you can bring it up for your audience. Okay. For the master. That's pretty important. Okay. That's pretty cool. Now, I wanted to also say that you might see me playing around with this master knob. And I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm not using the master knob right now. I'm not using the master outs. I should have came clean on that, my little configuration here. But I'm actually using the booth monitor. Okay. So you can hear that. So I just wanted to call that out because you probably have seen me adjusting volume with this, not this. Okay. But essentially the master is and the booth monitor will be controlled by these volume faders. And as you can see, we have had the others down, we've had them up. If I play and I've got something on track 2, we won't hear it until I turn this up. Right? Makes sense. Again, DJing 101, but the way that these mixers work, it's just good to call that out. One other feature about each of these channels is I can assign them either to A, B, or through. Okay, there's these little knobs here. Here's what this does. This corresponds, A and B and through, to the crossfader. And what's going on here is I have these two channels 1 and 3 set to A, and I've got 2 and 4 set to B. And that's the standard configuration. I think that's how it ships. That makes the most sense, because what happens is if I have the crossfader all the way over here, I'm only going to hear track 1 or channel 1 or deck 1, okay, and channel 3. And so I could have this playing and I'm hearing it, but let's just stop this and I'm going to play track 2. I'm not hearing anything until I move my crossfader over here to B. Off, on, Makes sense, right? Now, I've got it set up in with a real tight cut for scratching, right? So usually, like if a crossfader will have a slower crossfade and it, will fade in. But if you've got it in a tight crossfader mode for scratching, you're going to have just a little bit of motion is going to open it up and you're going to hear. Okay, so back to this. These two channels are on A and these two channels are on B. Through would allow the track to play no matter where the crossfader is. So if I put this and I start this one, it doesn't matter where the crossfader is, okay? But if I put it on a B, it's not gonna play because we're on A side. If I'm in the middle, of course, it will play. And so will this track. Okay, and you just saw something where I switched volume faders like this, and that switched between songs. Well, why, if I have that, why would I ever use this? Well, there's a lot of reasons to use all of these tools in different ways. So again, probably a topic for a whole nother video, but essentially, I use these to control the volume of the track, and I certainly use them to if I'm doing some, let's say, mixing, but I'm not beat matching, I'm just mixing songs like you would hear on a radio or maybe during cocktail hour or something, and I'm not beat matching, I might do a simple crossfade like I'm showing you right here. And that would, the way that would sound would be like this. Now, was that a cool DJ beat match? No, but it serves a purpose. You could do that and leave your crossfader set up the way I have it set up, crossfader with a quick cut such that I can do some scratching and transformers and some scratching, some crabs that I'm just learning, so I don't know, I'm not gonna even try to show you guys yet, but anyway, that's kind of like the reason for the different crossfader connections and different settings, and there's a lot more you can do with it, but I think that covers it. Okay, one other section here of the mixer, which is the master. We talked about the master. It's gonna control the output of these two XLRs that are on the back of the controller that go out to your DJ speakers. There's a balanced output, which is the XLR cables, and then there's a unbalanced, which is some RCA cables. Those would be great if I was, just here at home setting up some speakers and I wanted to use my master. I use the booth monitor volume just because what I have here is I have a cable. It's essentially, it looks like one of these 1/4-inch cables, if you can see this in frame. And it's just a cable that goes to a JBL Eon 1 Pro that's off to the side. And I just use that, connect it to my booth monitor. It's nice and easy. I don't need to hook up an XLR cable. I could do that, but I just have this cable here. And I just use the booth monitor. It sounds great. That was a little loud. Now, if I wanted to queue up my booth monitor and listen to it in my headphones, I could do that. And, obviously right now, I've got nothing playing the master because I don't have speakers. I have the booth monitor at 0 volume, but I've got it on cue. So if I had headphones right now, I would hear the volume. Just to tie that together, I would hear the sound. But I'm going to turn it up, and here we go again. What else do I have here? I have beat effects. This section here is the beat effects section. So without too much, you can go into this. I think you could probably do a whole hour of a video just on this section. But let me give you the quick piece of kind of like the quick rundown. Here's our little famous loop that we've been using, okay? And I'm gonna go through these real quick because all you do with the beat effects, all you do is you turn them on, okay? And then you can make adjustments and you could certainly, you could do different things, but you turn them on with this blue button, okay? Here's what it sounds like on. This is a low cut echo. And most of the things work post fader. So if I turn this on, post fader means I turn off the fader, it's still echoing, even though the song is off. You know, there's no volume. Okay. Now, what else I can do is, of course, this is the on-off button, as I mentioned, the blue button. I've got level or depth of the effect. So I can have very light low-cut echo, or you have very deep, very pronounced low-cut echo. This other button here allows me to apply the effect, the beat effect, to the master channel, or to any of the 1, 2, 3, 4 channels, or even to the microphone or the sampler. I can even put an effect on the sample. That's really, really cool. So here is where I select my sample itself, and then here is where I can set the beat of the sample itself. So let's just play around. I'm gonna let you hear what each sample sounds like, okay? Each beat effect. And then I'll show you what this beat, the change of the beat can do for you, okay? So here we go. We'll start with low cut echo, and I'm just gonna move around clockwise around the different samples. All right, so that was just around the clock, clockwise around the different settings. Now, what's up with these beat controls? Essentially, they allow you to adjust the whatever setting for the actual effect is. They allow you to adjust up and down. So check out this is the transformer. So check this out. This is a 1 beat transformer. Now, what if I move this down? Now it's a half beat transformer. So it's cutting out every half beat. Let's do a quarter beat. Back to a half. Down to eighth. Up to 2. 4. You guys can kind of get what's going on here, right? And you can adjust with this level depth knob, you can adjust and fine tune the transformer. Lots of fun. And you can actually play with all these. You can set the reverb by using these buttons, how much reverb you want. You could set the how much echo delay you want, what beat count you want. And I think, to be honest, some of these are really cool, but when you think about like a phase or a flanger, you can really hear the difference in these effects. So here's a flanger on 2, and I'll just slowly lower it. So you guys get the idea here. And finally, there are shift modes for these two buttons here. There's auto and there's a tap. So what you can do here is you can actually tap out your own BPM. Right now, it's in auto mode, and it's basically pulling the BPM of the track here into the beat. So that's how it knows, like, for example, the echo would be 1 beat. Well, it's using 1 beat based on a 135 BPM. That's the auto right here. But if I click the tap with the shift button, I can actually tap out a different BPM. Super high level advanced effects there. But if you wanted to tap out a different BPM, maybe you wanted to have it, or you wanted to like go on a third or something, I don't know, you could do some different things there. So that's super cool, right? Guys, I think we actually went through every single button and control on this controller. I'm just doing a quick scan to make sure we didn't miss anything, because man, if I missed something, that would be a shame. I think I got everything. And maybe I didn't go as deep as we could have on every single control, but we definitely did a good tour. This video has definitely been a really, really long marathon. So thank you so much for joining and listening to basically this tour of the DJ1000. As you can tell, I love this controller. I think it's versatile. It's got everything you would need to be a great mobile DJ, events DJ, great for a club. It's really just going to be a lot of fun in the bedroom if you're a bedroom DJ. It's really going to give you everything you need. So thank you so much for watching. And guys, I'll see you next time.